Hello all. In today's video, we will discuss about web services. So this will give you the high level technical knowledge on how web services work. And this is for business analyst and scrum master. This will help you to interact with developers and testers. So you will be able to convey what you want to say to the developers and testers in systems language. At the same time, when the developers and testers are using systems language and talking to you, you will be able to understand it as well. So that's the purpose of learning about web servers from a product perspective. So BAs and Scrum Masters, do watch this video till the end, and please do hit the like and subscribe button and share this video. Let's go to the training. Let's start with web service. Okay, so yesterday I gave a brief introduction on web service. So today we'll deep dive into web service, right? So now this is one application. So this image should be encrypted in your mind, correct? That's very important. Every time somebody says application, this image must come to your mind. Okay, so this is another application. So now the web service is going to be here, right? And it connects these two applications. What happens? You enter a search query. It goes into the middle tier. This is the middle tier. So it goes into the middle tier. So this is the middle tier, and these two, they are the middle tier, right? So it goes here, it goes to the middle tier. That process goes to the middle tier, goes into the web service, it goes to the other application, goes to that, and then the application will fetch it, give it to the web service. The web service will interact with the other application. So let's say this is application A and B. So yesterday's example, we took Kayak and American Airlines. So yesterday we took these two examples, right? So it will go and it will interact, and then it will again come back. So it will fetch the data. So in this case, it was fetching. In our yesterday's example, it was fetching flight schedule, correct? So it will fetch that info, come back, and again display it in the front end. So this is how web services work. Okay, now let's deep dive into web service itself. Okay, so this is a web service, and web service will consist of web methods. So this is web service. It is made out of web methods. So web methods is the brain behind, or web method is the content of the web service. So it will help the web service to facilitate that interaction between these two applications, right? So what is web methods made up of? Web method contains a lot of WSDLs. It's called web service discovery language. So the web service consists of a lot of web methods. The web methods consist of a lot of WSDLs, web service discovery language. And this is how it is actually, okay? And for application, so let's say this is application A, which is Kayak, okay? And this is application B, which is American Airlines. So this is the web service, right? I'll just call it WS. Now for the web service to facilitate the interaction, so if I search for flights from 9 to 10, even from American Airlines, it will fetch info. Likewise, Kayak. So American Airlines is just one. It will also fetch it from Indigo. So for that, another web service might be used. So likewise, there are many other entities, Indigo, United Airlines. So the web services will get triggered, and then they'll bring in the result. Now, this is possible through a language called XML. So whatever info you type in here, so that when the communication takes place, so that info is wrapped around an XML. I'll show you how it's wrapped around an XML. And again, it interacts with application B, and then the application B will give the info, in this case, American Airlines. It will again wrap that info. The flight schedule info will be wrapped around an XML, and it will come back. And then in the front end, you'll be able to see Indigo, United Airlines, American Airlines, all the flight info. Monday 4 p.m., all those flight info will come. 4:15 Indigo is there, 4:30 United Airlines flight is there. All this information will come. So any questions?
Awesome.
Okay, so now I'll show you. So at the end of the day, as a business analyst, many business analysts go in, and when two applications are interacting, this much you are supposed to know, right? This itself is a nice to have, but then it's good. Okay, it's good to know this. Okay, when they say two applications are interacting in your organization, you might be working with three applications, right? When those three applications are interacting, you have to have this much knowledge. Web service is facilitating that interaction. That knowledge you must have. That is very important. So when the client says, so when I enter some information in application A, it should show up in this page in application B in one day. That means you have to have some knowledge, and you have to be able to understand that web service is going to come into the picture. That much amount of knowledge you should have. Okay. And then moving forward, what will you do? These are all technical things that BAs are not supposed to do. But then I'm just saying, moving forward over a period of time, what we will do, you'll go into the Eclipse environment and try to figure out where the code for the web service is. You'll try to figure that out. That way, you are learning more and more and you are becoming a well-rounded business analyst, which is the vision. Okay. So now let me go to my other screen and I want to show you XML. Okay. The XML language. So how that interaction takes place, I want to show you that language. So this is how an XML looks. So this is how the XML code looks actually. This is like the body of the XML code. So I think what it shows is it shows the temperature. So this is how it's wrapped around in XML. So this is just fetching the information. That's why it says no sky and all that, right? So let's say you have a phone and you are able to get the weather in your phone, right? So in that case, the agency that has the weather information, it's a separate entity. It's not associated with your phone or anything. But then your phone or an application in your phone, some application in your phone, maybe the weather service application or whatever it is in your phone, has a web service that is talking to a web service, and then that web service is talking to that weather agency and it's getting all the information to your phone. That's what is happening. And then how is this information flowing? It is flowing by wrapping it around in an XML. That's how these two applications are able to talk to the web service. The information, if you see, there is sky, there is snow. So there is a lot of other information coming, right? But these two words I can identify. Dew, temperature, max temperature, minimum temperature. You see all these things in your phone, right? Today it will be 32 degrees and lowest will be 24 degrees. So all these things are coming from another application and it is wrapped around in a XML format. So this is the XML format. So you could learn XML in a day actually. In 2 hours you can learn XML. HTML it would take 2 or 3 days, but XML you can learn it in a day. So this is something that I would recommend you do because you'll get better understanding and it takes only 2 hours of your time, right? But then you have to have this much understanding. So when the information is coming from that entity, their only work is to capture the weather related information, and then your phone has an application. So that application is using a web service and getting all the information from the other entity or that weather agency, right? And when this happens, when these two applications are talking, the information that the weather agency is sending the application in your phone, and the search, the information the application in your phone is asking the weather agency. Both these set of content is wrapped around in XML language. So that much you need to understand. Certain things you can understand even in this code. All the start time, end time, and all you can understand. So this is what is happening behind the screen. And this is where web service is coming into the picture. So when you go and work in an organization, the web service, so now will you be asked to do XML coding? No. You will not even, as a business analyst, you will not even have access to the development tools. You might have access to Eclipse where you can see the code. So even to get that access, you have to make a lot of special requests. So you will not even be able to see the middle tier code. You might have access to SQL. You will have access to SQL. But then when it comes to the middle tier code, yesterday we talked about this, right? Java or .NET. And when it comes to the front end code, so I don't know what front end code you're going to use in the organization that you're going to go into. So it might be JavaScript or HTML. So you might not be having access to that, right? But then why are we learning this? Because when the developer is going to say, I think I might have to make changes to that web service so that the weather information will also come. No, when they say like that, it will not be Greek and Latin to you. You know what is happening behind the screen and you can also respond intelligently. So that is the reason why we are learning this. Having said that,
I have a doubt here.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it like the web services sends this XML file to the third-party application to retrieve the data in the format of XML?
So what happens is, if it is asking something, say, it will all be in a predefined format, right? So it will all be coded. So let's say for the weather example, if you want to know the temperature, current temperature, maximum temperature, minimum temperature, probability of rain. So 10 to 12 elements will be there, okay? And that is hard coded. It is not something that suddenly it cannot ask something else that is not in the code, that is not in the web service, right? So the web service will be coded in such a way that we are going to ask a set of information. It could be minimum temperature, maximum temperature, rain, or all these kinds of things, right? So what else is there? It has latitude, longitude, and all that.
when the web services ask for the information, there is some template in this XML. Third party, they will fill that and they will forward that back to the web service.
Yes, so that information is wrapped around in XML. So right here you could see sky is there, temperature is there, right? Can you see the sky temperature? So these things I'm able to understand. There are a lot of other jargons that I'm not able to understand. There is sky, snow, and all that. So all these information, when they ask also, it is wrapped around in XML. When that application is going to respond also, it is wrapped around in XML.
Since I'm a technical writer, I work in XML, but with my experience, I know that this XML is just like kind of notepad only.
Yes.
We can put the information under tags. That's all. It's not much kind of featured like APIs. So that's why I asked.
Yes. So the web service itself can be coded out of Java or .NET, right? But then when they interact, so whatever information they are conveying and whatever response is coming, that is wrapped around in XML. Like you said, XML is a very simple language. I think you can code for it in Notepad or that Notepad Plus or something. In that you can code. But then the web service, how it is built, it can be built out of Java or .NET or maybe out of Python too. But then the communication, when they talk, they wrap it around in XML and they send and they receive. So that is how it works.
Okay, so one more thing to I need to clear on this.
Okay.
Like combination of this front end and common code, these two, the combination of these two is called as middle tier, right?
No. The combination of code behind and common code.
Okay.
Front end is what you see on your screen, right? So now what is behind? So code behind and common code, okay? One similarity is that the business logic part of it is called middle tier, right? So when you say, let's say, where are you from? If I say from Texas, if I click Texas, then the computer will think and then it will say Austin or San Antonio or Houston. So all the districts will come, right? And then if I click on one district, all the counties will come. But if I click New York, then another set of districts will come, right? So that is happening, right? The computer is processing and thinking, right? The brain behind is there, right? That is called middle tier, okay? Now middle tier can be divided into two. So that thinking part, the front end is not doing. The middle tier is doing. Now that is middle tier, okay? Now let's divide the middle tier into two, okay? So now yesterday we saw in Amazon.com. If you understand middle tier, now if you go to Amazon, now this is one page, right? So let's say this Alexa show me sports scores or this feature, it goes to that specific part of the audiobook, right? So now this is code behind. Now if I click on it, it's going to a separate page. So that is code behind. That is only for that page. So this brain behind, so this processing is only for that page. Now let's say, just take note of all these features on top. Okay. If I click on bestsellers, it will be there. This is another page. If I click on Amazon Basics, it's going to be there. If I click on any page, all these features will be there. So all these features have an activity. If I click on this, it will show this. And then this is a code, right? So if I click on some zip code, it will do something. If I click on this, it will give something, So if I click some US and it will say, if I click outside US and then if I click on some US state, it will show an error message. So all that will happen, right? So all these things are brain behind. Now this is there for all the pages. It's there for this page, it's there for multiple pages. So all these elements will be there. Hence, this is in the middle tier, it's in the common code part because it's used across multiple pages. So that is kept in a common code area. Multiple pages will use that. Code behind is that business logic, the same business logic that we discussed. If I enter one state, it's going to show all the district. Which district are you from? It will ask another question. So based on my response, it will give another response. So if that brain behind is there only for that one page, only in one page it's there, then it is there in the code behind. So that is the difference. Front end is separate.
Okay.
So two web services. When it comes to two applications talking through a web service, there is going to be client, which is the service consumer, and then the other application will be the server, which is service provider. Then there is going to be a request, which will be wrapped around XML. There is going to be a response, which is wrapped around XML. So this is client, this is server. Whoever is asking for the information is client, whoever is giving the information is server. And it's going to be happening in, or there is another language called JSON. It's called JSON or JSON. Now this is even more lightweight. Okay, this is another language just like XML. This is very lightweight actually. You could also, if you Google and see, you can figure out how lightweight this is when compared to XML. So now there are two types of web services. One is SOAP, another is REST. So one major difference between the SOAP web service and the REST web service is the format can only be XML in SOAP. So only using XML you can wrap it around and send it. But in REST, the format could be XML or JSON or another format. There are many other formats in which it's going to wrap around that information. That is one major difference. But now when we discuss about SOAP and REST and all that, we are going too deep and too technical. So we'll stop right here. Okay. So this much you have to know. If you know all these things, it's like a nice to have anyways. But then this is something that you have to know. There are two types of web services. One is SOAP and other is REST. SOAP will only wrap it around XML. Okay. Just like we showed. And REST, it can wrap it around XML and JSON. So if you put all these things in your resume and you can say familiarity with web services, SOAP and REST. And then when they ask you, if you are able to give answer, it will look really good. You'll be able to crack the interview. At the same time, you'll also be able to work in the real-time environment better. Okay. Any questions so far?
These two are types or kind of companies. So types of web services.
Types of web services.
And in the same Amazon application, could you explain where the web service has been used?
So in the same Amazon application, so where the web services is used. So I don't know how many applications it's talking to, but for Skyscanner, I can say for sure that all the flights are from some other organization because it's United Airlines or American Airlines or it's something else. But Amazon, I don't know which organization it's talking to on a very high level. So I don't know what and all it's talking to. But then I feel when we hit the search queries, Amazon web services is pretty popular, right? So I think when we hit on the search query, it's going to search results from multiple organizations. It should. Is how I'm understanding it. I might be wrong. So, but at some
I can put some examples. Please correct me if I'm wrong. There are options like kind of the availability of the product, right? It may check with internal or external servers. Or in another case, if it's not available, we can choose other options like other buying options. That takes us to the client's website, but it will appear in AWS UI only. Those things I think will come under this web service.
True. Yeah, in Amazon, we just don't know since it's going to interact with so many entities outside of Amazon. On a very high level, I don't know how much web service usage is there. But then if it's going to be weather application that you use in your phone or something like a Skyscanner or something that's going to a third party source. So there's a lot of car rental applications, right? So there's Hertz, there is Budget, and there is Avis and all that. Car rental agency. Now there is going to be just like Kayak for car rental agency, there is going to be that middle person. So if you search, okay, I'm going to go on a trip from 1st of January to 10th of January. If you just do that search, it will show everything. Hotels, it will show what and all car rentals are available for those 10 days and the prices for that. And then the cumulative price of everything put together. So all that it will show. So that is another place where web service come into the picture.
Okay, so if the system is talking to the other organization system, then only the web service will going to come.
Exactly.
So if in case like the two separate system of the same, like let's consider the same like Amazon itself, there's two different applications are there. One for the people, for the sellers, and other for the customers. If while fetching the information from the seller application to the customer application, like the web service will be used, or it's just some other code will be used?
No, it's not two different organizations. A better way to phrase it would be two different applications. So even if it's under the same organization, as long as it's two different applications, you need web service.
All right. Yeah. Got it.
So now the next concept is Ajax. So generally, this is the front end, this is the middle tier, and this is the database, this is the adapters, this is the front end. Okay, this is code behind, this is common code, this is database. Okay, so now generally when you do a search, so one good example would be if you click on your roll number and then you hit enter, you are doing it in the front end. It is going to the middle tier, and then it is going to the database. The page is getting refreshed, and then so for all these to happen, the page will get refreshed, right? So when you click on your roll number, hit enter, the page gets refreshed, whereas the process will will go till database, it will fetch the data, again it will come to the middle tier, and again it will come to the front end. And then you will see your results. First name, last name, date of birth, scores, and all that you'll see. Result, pass or fail, all that info you will see. But if you see in Amazon, and I'll show it to you. So even before you hit search, it's going to show you a lot of recommendation, right? So now so that's where Ajax comes into the picture. So even before I hit search, it is going to show me all the info without the page getting refreshed. So the page is not even getting refreshed, and then it shows me all the information. So when I enter some info in here, it is going to the middle tier. So this is the front end. This is code behind and common code. So it's going to the middle tier. It is going to the database, and then it's coming back through the middle tier to the front end. And when all these things are happening, the page is not getting refreshed. So whenever you play around with applications, majority of the portion you can just check. If you want to fix some information without the page getting refreshed, it will not happen. But then if there is Ajax involved in the code, so Ajax would be coded in the front end is how I'm understanding it. And it will talk to the middle tier, and the middle tier will talk to the database, and then it will again communicate to the Ajax, and then the Ajax will talk to the HTML, and then the HTML will display all the information, how I am understanding. So Ajax is going to be in the front end, and it will talk to the middle tier, and the middle tier will talk to the database, and then the database will again talk to the middle tier, and then it will talk to when it's responding, again the middle tier will talk to the Ajax, and then you'll see results on your screen because the Ajax will trigger the front end code. And when all these things happen, the page is not even getting refreshed. So a good example for this would be, again we'll go to the same example that we took. So I'm just going to type MacBook. Okay. So I just typed Mac. Okay. I did not hit search. I did not do anything. See the amount of results that are coming up. So no matter what you see on the screen, as long as it's data, it has to be stored in a database that is housed in a server. If that's not the case, you are not going to see anything. So all this data is coming from a database, right? So right now the front end is actually interacting with the database. Otherwise, all these things cannot be stored in the front end, right? So I cannot code all these things in the front end. I can only store it in the database. It could be some complicated database. At the end of the day, it's a database. But then I did not even hit search. All this information is coming up. So when this is the case, but then check the majority of applications, this will not happen. So forget about all these enhanced, evolved applications like Google, Amazon, and all that. But then go and look into the applications that small entities use. So majority of those applications, this is not possible. The reason being, there is no Ajax code or something to the effect of Ajax code. So Ajax is asynchronized Java language, is how I'm understanding it. But then there might be some other coding languages that is to the effect of that. Okay. So now, if that is not there in place, so this activity will not happen. So this is where Ajax comes into the picture. So without the page getting refreshed, the Ajax will talk to the middle tier, and the middle tier will communicate to the database. The response will come to the middle tier. The middle tier will again communicate with Ajax. The Ajax will trigger the HTML code, and you'll see all this info. So this is Ajax. Any questions? So as a business analyst, all you need to understand is when the client is going to ask you something to the effect of, so when I click on Mac, so all these info should come. So you are working on some application, you are gathering requirements, and they'll say, okay, when they click on something, it has to show all these recommendations. Okay. So now as a business analyst, you should know whether the application, the architecture is evolved to a point where, or the architecture is capable of delivering Ajax related content, delivering something where the page should not even be refreshed, but then all this info will come. So is the architecture, is the code behind, will it be able to deliver that? You should be able to know. Is the application that much evolved? So if Ajax is in place and if it's that much evolved, then you can say, yeah, why not? We'll take it as a requirement. If you don't know, then you can say, okay, I'll take it back to the developer, have a conversation and come back. But then for you to do this and for your mind to, for the antenna in your mind to beep when they give this requirement, you need to have knowledge on that Ajax related content. So this is what you have to understand. So suddenly I'll come and say, if I click on Mac, all these Mac related stuff must come, and whether it's in stock or not also must be displayed without the page getting refreshed. So if you know that, okay, this is the Ajax is that, the page is able to do all these things, you will say yes right away. But if you don't know anything about Ajax, you'll again say yes, but you do not know whether it's possible or not. The developer will say this is not technically possible. Now you have to go back and say this is not technically possible. But if you know the Ajax concept, your antenna will beep. So either you know that the application can deliver it and you'll say yes, or you don't know whether the application can deliver it, but you have the concept of Ajax in your mind, you'll say wait for some time, I'll contact my developer and get back to you on this request. That is where we are using this concept when we gather requirements and when we do our business analysis.